Okay, I feel like this review is going to be pretty short, mostly because I really don't have a whole lot to say about this movie. I had done a reaction and review to the trailer several months ago, way back when. And I remember that I was intrigued by the trailer and I was interested to see it. So when I was in California earlier in the year, I believe it was when I was, I think it was when I was in California. Anyway, I managed to watch it, or had the time to watch it because I was, not doing my normal routine at the time. And I think it was on Netflix. I'm pretty sure that's where I saw it. But anyway, I'll start off by saying it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not the most astounding movie I've ever seen. I don't regret that I took the time to watch it. It wasn't, horrendous or anything like that. It just wasn't anything that was super, grabby and just really impactful. It was fairly decent. I mean, I know if I took the time to examine a whole bunch of plot things, I would probably find a bunch of holes in it. But, it was good for what it was. Something that let me pass the time for about an hour and a half, and I was, adequately entertained. I wasn't necessarily bored. I have to say that this was kind of, it was fairly predictable. This is your typical amnesia type mystery, and of course, as the movie goes on, he remembers little bits and pieces here and there, but he doesn't, he can't remember everything until right at the end, and when it all becomes clear and stuff like that. So it certainly followed a very predictable pattern with regard to these types of stories, amnesia type stories. So the premise of the story is this guy, he wakes up in the hospital, or at some point he's hurt, and then he wakes up and he has no memory of what's been going on with him. He doesn't know. I don't think he remembers how he gets the injuries. He's under suspicion for something. I think he's handcuffed to the bed when he wakes up, to the hospital bed. Anyway, this nurse that takes care of him, she ends up helping him throughout the course of the story to try to figure out what's going on. And that was actually one of the weak points in this story for me. And I don't know if it's because there were some cut scenes or whatever, but the nurse, who's played by Francesca Eastwood, Clint Eastwood's daughter, it just kind of didn't make a huge amount of sense why she was so quick to just jump in and help this stranger and, break him out of the hospital. And they go on this little journey to try to figure out what's up, and she's helping him and all this. And it was just, they made a half-hearted attempt to try to explain it, but it didn't really completely convince me. I know they had to get there somehow, so they tried to explain it the best way they could. Maybe if the movie was a little longer and we got a little bit more interaction between her and him before she jumped in to try to help him, maybe then it would have been a little bit more believable, but it just seemed kind of out of place. It just did not fit. So that was one of the main things that I noticed when I watched it, as far as, okay, this is just a little bit too hard to kind of swallow. But, putting that aside, it was okay. It was just a mystery. I can't really say that I was super surprised by the ending or anything like that. Like I said, it's pretty predictable. If you've watched enough of these things, if you've seen enough mystery movies or read enough mystery stories or listened to enough mystery audiobooks or whatever, you probably will guess kind of early-ish on what the deal is. I mean, it tries to throw some red herrings at you, but it's not like it's the most strongly plotted thing I've ever seen. So, it just wasn't all that surprising. But like I said, it wasn't a complete waste of my time. I didn't feel that it was a complete waste of my time. I've certainly seen movies that I felt like they were a complete waste of my time. This wasn't it, but this is something that's kind of fairly forgettable, I guess. I checked out reviews for this, and Rotten Tomatoes has no audience reviews yet. And I think only like 7 official critic reviews. And the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes are terrible, like 17% or something like that. And on IMDb, they're quite a bit better. It's like 50%, which is kind of how I feel about this video, to be honest. It's kind of like, you know, not terrible, not awesome, just kind of in the middle. So that's sort of where I line up as far as, you know, if there's going to be a review score that I would give, that's sort of what I, you know, would agree with more. But, you know, I don't know. If you like mystery stuff, if you're, you know, easily entertained and you don't mind that the story might be fairly weak and predictable, and you want to watch it because maybe you like the actors or whatever, or you just like the genre, kind of like how I love the horror genre. So I watch all sorts of horror movies, even ones that are awful, just because I gravitate towards that. But anyway, you know, I like mystery things too. And that's why I was interested in this. And I don't regret watching it, like I said. So, but I don't really have a lot more to say about it. So rather than ramble on, I guess I'm going to go ahead and call this one quits. Or, yeah, call it quits. Adios.